What's up, everybody? It's Concrete Zebra with Craftmaster Productions and Studio One Tutorials.com. And today we're going to be going over what plugins you may or may not need. What's up, everybody? It's Concrete Zebra, aka Donald J. Zebra, and today we're going to be going over what plugins you may or may not need. This is all going to be based off of my personal opinion. So, if you feel the need to comment that you don't agree, that's cool. Everybody needs a voice, but I'm not going to argue with you. So here's the deal. When I first started the reason why I'm doing this video is because I get a lot of questions from folks first starting out with their rigs, and they're like, what plugins do I buy to make ambient future chill trap with female vocals? And it's like, all right, bro, like, it's all a matter of personal preference, but everybody says that, but there is a framework to work within. So first of all, when it comes to making music, the first things that I suggest is to really invest in some amazing drum samples. That's one thing, because they don't come as a VST most of the times. I mean, they do, like with battery and machine and things like that. But I just find that there's other third-party libraries that are just so much better than what the software companies put out, even though they do put out some great, totally usable stuff. But, for drums, you want to look at, like, you want to do your research. You want to download some sample packs. Illmind, the Blap Kit 7 is like my favorite kit right now. For like trap, the kits that Av McCree puts out at Trap Camp Entertainment, very affordable kits, like $15, and it'll fucking freak you out because there'll only be like 60 sounds in that, but you can use all 60 of the sounds. That's another piece of advice I want to give you guys when you're looking for drums. Don't just buy some shit that gives you 250 sounds. You know what I mean? Because most times you're gonna wind up using only 30 of them. So anything that has a video tutorial going through it, don't buy something that you can't hear. If somebody's trying to sell you sounds that they're not willing to show off, then they're probably not that good. If you've got the money for it, if you get something like the Urban Fire Volume 7 or something like that, that's gonna leave you set with drums. The thing about buying drums is we get kind of addicted to the stylistic stuff. So a different subgenre of trap will come out, or a different producer will start using different samples, and then we'll want to go get like the Metro Boomin kit or the Bryson Tiller kit or whatever. And it turns out these drums are coming from like Machine, Battery, Urban Fire, and things like that, and then they're just adding like reverbs to them, or they're doing this or they're doing that. So just know that you might not know how to do it today on day one, but if you invest on a quality, $60, $70, $100 pro drum sample kit, all those other kits that you want, you could make with the drums that you already have. And that is probably my number one biggest piece of advice. The same thing with 808s. If you learn how to synthesize a sine wave and put distortion on it and make your own 808s, it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run, and you're going to be able to make better tracks, because you're not going to like, I hate that stupid ass meme where like Shaq is crying and it's like, when you find the perfect 808, like, bro, why the fuck you need to find an 808? Like, it's on every synthesizer. But Some people prefer samples, and you know what? That's fine. It's easier. So as far as that's your first. It's not a plugin, but that's the first thing you need to get. Um, then if I just go through my instruments here, let's see. Oh, the second instrument that you're gonna want to get out the gate, aside from your stock stuff, is you're gonna want to get a rompler, right? And a rompler is something that you don't synthesize. It's just it sounds like pianos, strings, horns, something that's triggering samples that's expandable. So I have Nexus 2, just because it's basic as fuck and people love it. And I don't make avant-garde music. I like to make music that people love. So if that's what you're going for, that's cool. And I'm also extremely tired of the Nexus sounds, because just like the competitive producer in me, wants to have something that no one else has. So I went and I seen this being advertised, Lethal, by God, I forgot what the name of this company is. But if you search Lethal VST, this will come up. And right now they've got this cool thing where they're doing unlimited. Um, all the expansions that they drop until July of next year are free. So that's pretty dope. And they've been doing one like one about every 45 days, or 60 days. So that's really dope that they're doing that. And just to have sounds in your beats that are different from everybody else. Because if you'll notice, like, whenever a new producer comes out, it's because they have new sounds. It's not because they're using VZ Bell 1.5 out of Nexus. It's because they're doing something new that no one else is used to hearing. So in order to kind of put myself in that lane, I'll get a new VST, no problem. So the first thing out the gate, you want to get it. You're gonna want to get a Rompler. I like Lethal Audio. I've heard good things about the Heat Up workstation from Ignite. But yeah, just something that you're gonna be able to use bread and butter sounds out of. Like pianos, again, strings, brass, different pads. Different pre-programmed leads and things like that. And then once you have your Rompler set up, and you know that you could pretty much make any type of basic instrument, now you're gonna want to start working on your synth library. And I still think to this day, even though it's an older synth, I still think that that Silent is just the best synth for somebody who's starting out, and getting plugins and just getting used to synthesis, because the layout is extremely easy. You have your oscillators, your amp envelope, your filter, and then your mod matrix, right? And Silent is what most people say about this synth, is that it's extremely easy to create on, because all you have to do is pick a wave, adjust the detune, and start putting effects on it, and you're gonna get something that sounds all right. And just to illustrate that point, I'll go ahead and we can just take, we have a basic wave right here. Where we at? We'll take just a basic sound like this, and we'll change the voices, and we'll detune it a little bit, and we can change the envelope some, put the signature silence reverb, play with the distortion, maybe a little bit of chorus to blur it. Throw a low pass. I mean, you see, like, it's really easy to make something that that is perfectly usable in any track. So that is definitely why I recommend this synth as just the first learning tool. I mean, just something. I mean, this you can make 808s in this thing real easy. Just change this to a sine wave. Let's take the reverb and the chorus off. Leave the distortion on. Drop this down a couple octaves. And so if you could start the basis of something like an 808 with just two controls, imagine what happens once you go ahead and you learn the rest of it. And as you can see, there's not that much there. So that's what I like about Silent. On top of that, is it's such a established product that so many sound designers are familiar with it, that you can go anywhere and look for silence banks, and people are still creating silence banks to this day, like Young Thug silence banks, different trap silence banks, different EDM silence banks. And if you were to start out and you had just the Rompler and Silence, you're gonna be in a good position to create anything. You're gonna be able to follow along with any tutorial, because you'll have subtractive synthesis and you'll have bread and butter sounds. Now that's kind of like your backbone deal. Now to break off, this is where you start deciding what type of production are you really going to get into. So say for example, if you're doing more traditional hip hop production and you're going to be making tracks that are not only trap, but you're going to be making sample tracks as well, and you're going to be taking samples and looping them, and then maybe layering live instrument, or wanting to layer live instruments or live sounding instruments on top of those samples to kind of fill out the track after you go ahead and filter the drums out and things like that. You're going to want to get a hold of Native Instruments Komplete, which is going to have Kontakt as one of the main products inside of it. And what you're going to get here is you're going to get all these different instruments, like the action strings, the different pianos, the multi-sampled drums. Like this, the multi-sampled drums is something that if you're making like traditional hip hop and things like that, it's such a powerful tool, because you get different drum swings. You get the benefit of using the different kits and the different mic arrangements in order to create the tones that you desire. And that is that's really important, because you can take a sample from the 70s and maybe you don't want to use 808s, maybe you want a more acoustic sound. You can go to Abbey Road 70s drummer and get the same exact vibe from the drums, but when you layer them over top, now you can mix them on their own, which is a technique that I've used over and over again. And it's great. It totally works. The thing that makes this different from something like Nexus or Lethal is these are what you call multi-sampled kits. And what that means is, especially like this Abbey Road stuff, look up Abbey Road if you don't know what it is. They take and they'll have a player strike this snare at 14 different velocities. So that'll be loaded into the Kontakt sampler. So you have 14 different velocity choices, depending on how you strike the key or your drum pad, and that will give you a different sound. So you really get the full expression, or the fullest expression available of the instrument that's being recorded. Whereas a Rompler like Nexus, when you mess with the velocity of a sound, it's just going to turn the volume down, which is why the pianos in Contact and that are become available with the complete um, package are, I don't want to say superior because that's subjective, but are more versatile than something you would get in Nexus, because if you play soft, it's going to be the sound of somebody sampled playing soft on a piano, not just a key getting hit at full velocity then turned down to try to give that feeling. So that is just the main, the other advantage of Contact is, like Silent, it's an older product that's been in the marketplace for such an amount of time that it's on its fifth version. The advantage of that is there are more sound designers that are familiar with it, and you can get stuff like the guys at Beat Generals came out with a sound design site. I think it's Sounds Online or something like that, where they have an amazing product. I think it's called like the EXO kit or something like that, and it's this kit that's built around weekend type sounds. And there's this one bank of well, I'll just show it to you guys. Is this it? Let me see here. No, this is like this kit right here. The EXO Overdose from Studio Sounds. Like they came out with this product, and it works inside Contact. And basically what it's like having a brand new plugin. You know what I'm saying, a brand new Rompler. And it only costs like $50. So once you go ahead and you get something like Silent, or you get something like Contact, where people are constantly coming out with new sounds for it, it's like you don't have to worry so much about getting more and more separate plugins in order to sound different and original, because you can find a sound designer that you like, and they're going to do that work for you, which is just an amazing advantage of having something like Contact in your arsenal. The next thing that you would think about getting after getting Contact or Complete would be, you would want to get into a specialty synth. You would want to get into a synth that you could do more sound design on, and really start to carve your originality. For me, there is one synth out there that just absolutely has no equal. A lot of people will agree with me, and it's Omnisphere 2. The thing about Omnisphere 2 is it comes with all these waves that you can go ahead and use. And it's amazing because it's like having all these different synthesizers inside the synthesizer, because you can use the JP 8000 PWN and these three Juno waves. It doesn't give you all the different waves inside the synthesizer, but I mean, you could tell it has a lot of stuff. And then on top of that, you can choose to use it's different samples as waveforms. So, and not only use the different samples as waveforms, but they're so well organized. So if whenever I have an idea, I'm like, yo, I want a retro sound, let me mess with the C64. I want an arcade type of sound. And then let me see right here. And these are, these sounds, these aren't synthesized. These are the actual sample chips. So, and there's a ton of them. And that's and that's just one thing. Like when you go through, if you want something that has a lot of deep choir options, this is another great one. And they have a boys choir, they have a full choir, men's choir, women's choir. Then they have the different effects from the choirs. They have choir warm ups. Like, you can create any type of vocal texture. And then on top of that, you think about it. So the the main option that Omnisphere gives you is that you can use this boys choir as a as essentially a wavetable. Then you can stack that with a with any other type of oscillator. So I could make a detuned square pad, then stack that with a chorus, or with with a boys choir or something, to make a sampled slash synthesized pad. And that's how you really start to you can really start to pull away from other sound designers that aren't using something like Omnisphere, because it's really the only synth that does that. And that right there is what makes Omnisphere such a great synth. It's not the fact that it's got 20,000 presets, or it's other people say that. Like, that's the one thing that I feel like people don't talk about enough, is that's how you get the uniqueness of the sound, is by mixing a oscillator and a sample. The next thing that you're going to want to focus on acquiring is you want to get a really solid limiter. If you were to have Silent, Omnisphere, Komplete, Nexus, you would be set for sounds. All right, especially if you started focusing, because not only with Komplete, I'm leaving out all the synths that come in Komplete too. I'm just focused on contact. So if you had those, you would be set with sounds. You'd want to start focusing a little bit more on mixing. And Studio One has great reverbs, delays, EQs. The only thing that I really just don't really appreciate in Studio One is the limiter. I don't like the way it sounds at all. So for limiters, what I like to use is I love this L2 Ultra Maximizer. It is just a ball and limiter. I mean, it's an old one, but it just works so good. And it's very simple with the controls. You set your output ceiling, you set your threshold, you crank it down, and it does what it says it's going to do. Recently, I have been enticed to mess with the Slate Digital stuff, and I have been just 100% blown away with this thing right here, the Slate Digital Fx GX. It is just it gets shit so loud. And the transient controls that are on this thing, the little transient master here, is just so cool to have that actually on a limiter and to use it and it not be obnoxious. It's got great presets that can start out as great starting points. And I also like that it has a compressor up here. So if you were to just put this limiter on your master bus, you can do your bus compression here. You could do a little bit of the expansion work here, and then really just get down to hitting this limiter. I love the size of the level meter, and the thing screams, but it's very transparent. Such a really good product that I always wanted to mess with, and since I've recently got an iLock, because I wasn't into iLocks. It's just so annoying to take up a USB space. But since I had the iLock and the iLock account, I was like, let me try out this thing. Their shit is cool because you can get their everything bundle for $25 a month. And if this is something where, say, you start selling beats and you're selling 4 or 5 beats a month, and you're doing $20 leases, just think of one of those leases as a investment into your plugins, and you can get these Slate plugins, and it's gonna give you, oh my god, it's gonna give you so much. You get EQs, you get compressors, You get the you get exciters, transient designers, um, and they're all like emulations of old gear, which makes it extremely powerful. These different little coloring preamps, um, the emulation of the SSL mixer here. This revival exciter is fucking boss. Um, and then the console strip emulations, those are also very cool for adding color to your tracks. Just this thing right here for $25 a month, along with that limiter, you can't beat it. But that's something that I recommend if you are, beginning to do well and you're starting to see money in your beat making business. It's definitely worth it. If not, you can get something like the L2. I monitor the Waves website to see whenever they have sales, and I just buy their stuff up. A lot of like that L2. It's a $300 limiter, but I caught it for $80. Just being on their mailing list. I mean, Waves does a sale every week, so once you buy one plugin from them, they're gonna get you, because they're gonna have something that you want for cheap at least once a month. And then the other limiter I recommend is the this guy. No, nothing from IK Media. I need to delete that shit. Sucks so bad. So mad I spent money on that. But the Ozone 7, it's $250, full mastering suite. There was a time where I thought that I couldn't make good music without this, and for good reason. It's an amazing mastering suite. You get the limiter, you get a vintage limiter, you get great EQs, a pretty decent exciter, great compressor, and it's really easy to make a professional sounding master, provided you get a decent mix. But those are the things that I would look at if I was just starting out and I was starting to build my rig. I would work on getting a Rompler, work on getting a good subtractive synth. Then I would get something more exotic like an Omnisphere or even a Serum, and make sure I picked up Komplete. And then after I got all that together, I knew I'd be set on sounds. I could create literally anything. Then I would work on getting a decent limiter and or mastering suite, and you're going to be able to produce at a level that is going to be able to start to generate you some decent income, provided on how hard you grind with your networking and getting your name out there. So again, I hope this helps some of you guys out that are starting out and want to know how to build your rig and knowing what plugins you may or may not need. If you guys want to see like a more expanded breakdown of all the stuff that I have, I do that. It's just this video is getting kind of long. Just hit me up in the comments and let me know if you want to see that. This is Concrete Zebra. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel. I appreciate all you guys. Hit me up with whatever you need. Keep it simple. Don't be basic. And we'll see y'all on the next one.